to talk about first is um, what it was like in the so-called good old days for women. Were women who were actresses, were they prized? Were they easily fired and done away with and replaced by another woman? Was it a perilous job to have?
Well, it was a marvelous job to have if you could do it and if you loved it the way I did. But you must remember, I was only about 25, you see, then when I started, and but I had everything under control, and I had two studios that wanted me, Metro Goldwyn Mayer and Paramount. I believe it was Paramount. And there was another one, but it was a small one, so I never even worried about that one. But I wanted to go to Metro. I'd always loved Metro Goldwyn Mayer, and so I wanted to go there. And when they said Metro Goldwyn Mayer, but I thought, oh, here we go. So I said that's where I wanted to go. But then something turned up that the other one sounded very well too, and I was, thinking about it, but then I thought, no, you want to go to Metro. There's just no use. That's where you're going. So I did, and I had they signed me on a 7-year contract, and I stayed there for the 7 years, and I loved it.
What did they start you at? Do you remember your starting salary?
I think it was something like 3,000 or something like that, and well, it was in the thousands when I got into the second part of the third, but at the beginning, I think I can't honestly tell you, but it was a good salary. I'm pretty sure of that.
Well, maybe Randy can tell us, only because when Janet Leigh signed her contract,
She was
it was
$750.
for $50 a week.
Well, Anita was before taxes, and
That's what I mean. I'm wondering
and she
whether
started.
they paid.
They started her at $3,000 a week. She was right, and it was for 40 weeks a year. Whether you worked or didn't work, she worked.
So could you tell me that?
And then
can
Anita,
you just
after
say,
the second part,
can you just say, when I signed my contract at Metro Goldwyn Mayer, my starting salary was $3,000 a week. Can you say that for me?
Well, yes, I'm not sure if it was, but I think it was. And so, because that
So
goes
can you
back
say
quite a way, but I'll tell you what I think. I think I got 3,000 a week, which
what she needs you to do, darling, honey, if you would please, because you started at 3,000, then remember, we went to 5,000.
I don't even remember what I got, if you want the
Your manager
truth.
went in and fought for money, and you had a big fight with them.
Yeah, and they gave in. I thought it was 7,000, but
No, it was
700. I mean, but you say it was what?
5,000.
Well, I guess
I
then
had
that's
the contract.
Oh well, then 5,000. He's got the contract.
So let me ask you. This is interesting. Do you think that you were signed for that high a salary because there were two studios bidding for you?
It's possible, and it's also possible it gave me a little more something I could work with, because having two studios after you was better than having one studio, you see. And so that, although I wanted to go to Metro, that was the one I really wanted. But the other one was a very good salary, and I was thinking about it, But then the fact, of course, that I had the two that wanted me made it very nice, But no, in the long run, it was Metro I wanted to go to, and I did, and I stayed the whole 7 years, but I was tired by that time because they kept me working all the time. I made about 34 pictures, and so I was tired, and I wanted to. So I went up to the Hearst Castle for a while. Marion Davies was just like that. We were just like sisters almost, and so I went up there for a little rest, And then I met the man I loved and I was crazy about, and so I got married, and I made up my mind I was never going back to pictures once I was married, unless it was for something like the religious. I'm a Roman Catholic, and if it was something about that, I'd want to do that. But otherwise, no. I was home. I was finished. I'd had 7 marvelous years, and I was finished in the business, and I was happily married. And my husband, I lived with him till he died. We were married for about, do you remember how long? About 40 some odd years? 54 years.
So let me ask you. You played these parts that had great verve. You in front of a camera, you didn't seem to have any problem being emotional, getting angry. You were great. You could play being drunk. Tell me how you did.
Oh, I'll tell you how I did about being drunk. I never had a drink in my life, But I was going to make these scenes, stand out. See, so what I did is I turned around very slowly, sort of like that, and that, and that, and that, and I got kind of half dizzy a little bit. And when you took the pictures, it was great. It was just like I was, had had a little too much, and I hadn't had a drink at all. And the funny part of it is, when I was, the exhibitors wanted me a lot after they'd seen that I was making, a hit. And so they asked me, this man that brought me out said, now I want you to understand. He said, I know this girl. I know her family. She has never had a drink in her life. Oh, they hooted because, you see, I did this so well by turning so that I got sort of I sold them on the fact that I had had something to drink, but I never did. Not until later on in life, but I mean, not at that time. But I used little ways and means to help me.
So this wasn't the brilliant idea of the brilliant director. This came
Hardly.
from the actress.
Hardly. It's a funny thing. He didn't want me for the part in the beginning, the director, because he thought I'd never made a picture before, that long, and so much rose and fell on my performance. And so he was hoping for somebody that had a little more experience, you see, but the studio said no, and of course I made his picture for him. After that, he'd take me for anything you get me for, because I was able to do it, and I made, in fact, this very nice gentleman who had been on the stage for a long time brought me out, because you see, the exhibitors began asking to have me on stage to bring in people and things, because I was making a good hit in this. And so when this man said, I know this girl, she's never had a drink in her life. And they laughed, they hooted and howled, they didn't believe him. And he said, I mean this. I know her family. I've known her for years. She has never had a drink in her life. Well, you could have heard a pin drop. The whole theater just went out. I mean, they couldn't believe it, but they had to, because this man was apparently an elderly man that had been very well taken, very well known in the theatrical
And how did you
business.
get around in those days? I mean, how did you get?
I had a car and a chauffeur.
What, for tours? How'd you go on tours?
Well, I didn't go on too many tours. They kept me working right in the studio.
And how'd you get to the theaters for these appearances?
Oh, well, you could, they'd probably send a car to me. Remember, they probably sent a car for me.
You didn't go on
I
trains
think
back
we
to
had
New
we
York?
had a car. We had a car, and I think maybe my dad might have driven me. I don't know. Did I go
Did
to
you
New
go
York?
like to New York on a train?
I didn't go to New York. They kept me too busy right out there working. See, I worked steadily for, I think, maybe 4 or 5 years. And then I was still working, but I didn't have to work as much, This is the best now that I can remember
this. I know you
this.
made like 4 movies in each year. I mean, it was a tremendous number of movies.
Well, it was. I made 34 movies, I think, in about 6, 7 years. I've forgotten exactly, because it was some time ago,